Hello everyone, welcome to Valhalla Lighting. Today we're going to talk about 5-in-1 reflectors. Namely, what are they, why would I want to use one, and how would I use one if I wanted to use one. So let's get into it. Okay, so if you made a guess at what a 5-in-1 reflector is, you'd probably be correct. It's a tool that does 5 things. Most manufacturers have the same 5 flavors in their 5-in-1s. This one that I have from Newer, that I just got on Amazon, is black on one side, silver on the other side, and then if you unzip it, there's a cover on the outside of this that you can flip inside out and then zip back over the core of this. That gives you 2 more flavor options. You have a gold reflector option. You have a white bounce option. And then in the very middle of this Tootsie Pop, you have a diffusion material, like a silk, a poly silk. And it's a great tool for beginners. They come in lots of different sizes and they're inexpensive. You can get some that are like 2 feet in diameter. You can get some that are like 4 feet in diameter. I've even seen oval-shaped ones that are like 6 or 8 feet long. You can get them on all sorts of sizes. They pack up really small. You can put it in a backpack, keep it in the trunk of your car, use it as a backup. You know, they're sort of a beginner option, but I often will take mine with me just in case. It never hurts to have another option or another get out of jail free card, you know? So let's take a minute and talk about why you would want to get one of these. First, like I said before, they're very inexpensive. I think I paid 25 bucks, maybe 30 bucks for this one. And it's 3 feet in diameter, so it's plenty soft if I'm using it for a bounce or a diffusion. It's enough that I can use it on a setup like this where I'm not seeing a whole person's body from head to toe. They're a good choice when you're first getting started out, because in a more pro setting, we would have a bounce material that only does bounce. We would have diffusion that only does diffusion. We'd have solid that only does negative fill. And all of those things are on their own frames and it takes up a lot of room. They're comparatively way more expensive. You know, you might spend $100 on a diffusion frame, and for that kind of money you could buy 3 or 4 of these. So when you're getting started out and you're just learning the ropes of how to modify light, these reflectors are sort of indispensable in terms of value. So I highly recommend you pick one up if you don't have one. And if you do already have one, or you're planning on getting one, let's talk about how to use them and what they do to the light. Now let's look at some footage that I shot outside using this 5-in-1 to show you the kinds of different things you can do with it in order to modify the lighting that you have. I shot it outside for 2 reasons. First is a lot of the time when you're using this kind of grip lighting, as opposed to electric lighting, you're shooting outside because you're far away from electricity, or maybe you only have a couple of big lights that are useful in the sun and the rest of them are just going to do nothing in broad daylight. And reason number 2 is my house has sort of low ceilings, and so it was just much easier for me to be able to maneuver that around outside. Anyway, let's take a look at that footage. So here you can see this first image is just me with no modification whatsoever. Just raw sunlight coming from the back, and it is making me look like you would expect. It's not very flattering, it doesn't look particularly cinematic, and it's just not what we want. One of the ways we can use these reflectors outside is using the silver side to bounce a very harsh light. Now, what you can see here is I'm putting it on the same side as the sunlight is coming from, because it will look more natural if I have a harsh light coming from the same direction as the sun, as opposed to me putting it on the fill side of my face. And then I have two very harsh sources. And in reality, I guess there are some cases where that may happen, like if I were in front of a large window or a swimming pool or something that was shooting harsh light back at me. But generally, you're going to have your harsh light coming from one side and then soft light coming from the other side. So I set it up on the same key side as my sunlight to give kind of a more natural wrap around my face. And then we have the solid side. You can use it as shade, just cut the sunlight entirely, which, as you can see here, is not ideal because then I am much darker compared to the background. But if you had a light source or another reflector or something like that, you can cut the sunlight entirely and then add your very own light coming from the direction with the quality that you prefer. Then, if we open this up and spin that shell around, we get gold and white. The gold reflectors are sort of tricky. They're not super useful in every scenario, but every now and then they're exactly what you need. My favorite thing to do with them is use them around sunset or sunrise. And so you'll have your talent backlit by the sunset, for example, and then you will bounce your fill with the gold reflector and it will give very nice sunset-y, summertime campfire vibes. It's just very warm and inviting, but very few opportunities present themselves where that's the look you're going for. And then you have the white bounce side, and that's the color that I end up using most often on these reflectors because it's a backpackable version of like a 4x beadboard like I use on set most of the time. And it just gives a really nice soft quality to the light. You can use it to wrap light around the face from the key side, like I mentioned with the silver reflector, but the white is obviously more subtle. It's a softer quality of light that gets bounced back. But if you're shooting outside and you see that your fill side of your subject is too contrasty compared to the key side, then maybe you'll want to put your bounce on the fill side and fill in the shadowy side of the face. In the test footage here, in retrospect, I wish that I had put my bounce higher in the air. That would have just been more flattering, I think. Instead of bouncing that fill light from down low, it would have looked less artificial, but for the purposes of this, it demonstrates my point fairly well. And then lastly, if you take the shell off altogether, you're left with a polysilk type material that you can use to diffuse your sunlight. So in this example outside, I set it up on my C-stand and put it between the sun and myself. As you can see, it softens the light very nicely on my face. It gives a nice wrap around the front of my face. But again, like cutting the light altogether, you can see that that kind of darkens me up a little bit too much compared to the background. So in an ideal scenario, you'd have another source of light that you could kind of supplement to get the exposure that you want on the face so that the background doesn't feel so hot. So, like I said earlier, these reflectors don't cost that much, and if you don't have one, I recommend you pick one up and play around with it, see what you can do. Ma'am. Lots of different manufacturers make these 5-in-1 reflectors. You can get them pretty much anywhere that sells photography equipment, but if you want the specific one that I have and used in this video, I'll put a link in the description box below. If you have any other questions about this topic or any other topic regarding lighting for video or film, put it in the comments section below, and I will try to address it in a future video. Speaking of which, make sure you subscribe as well so that when I do make that video, you're able to get notified so that you can see the answer to your question. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.